Welcome back to Virtual Shakeup. I'm really delighted to have Deborah Holton, who is the Managing Director Industry Events at ASME, one of the United America's oldest associations for mechanical engineers. Welcome, Deborah.
Thanks, Heather. Good to be here.
Absolutely. Well, just with quick introduction, Debbie is the Managing Director, as I mentioned, of a new group at ASME, Industry Events and Technology Advancement and Business Development. She's leading efforts to develop and launch new products and services to have strategic impact in areas of advanced manufacturing, clean energy, bioengineering, robotics, and digital transformation. Debbie is a well-known figure in the trade show and events world, having spent many years at SME prior to her new role at ASME. Debbie, anything you want to add to your experience?
No, but it's just a great time to set up a brand new industry events area.
Yeah, actually, well, I have to say, I met Debbie because I had joined her as a consultant to launch a new live event in additive manufacturing scheduled for May 2020. And I want to say we were in New York on March 11th when this whole thing just blew up, and we pivoted very quickly from a launch event in May to a launch virtual event in May. Tell me about that experience. I mean, I know I was with you, but tell the audience, like, what happened?
Straight from the trenches. Yeah. So, and that event was supposed to be in Minneapolis, which is even more interesting from World Events perspective. So, yeah, we've been working on this for about a year and a half, developing the marketplace, speaking with customers, developing a community around additive manufacturing. And we're really positioned to launch this new event. And when COVID hit, because COVID, we had to change our plans. And actually, it's been a very interesting journey in changing our product mix, going back to some of our sponsors, even some that had said no to the live event, and getting them on board for the virtual. And we've learned a lot along the way. And, I don't know all the answers, but I'm really happy to be here and sharing with the group.
Well, you actually said something very interesting when we were, debriefing about what we wanted to talk about today. And that is May is not today. Like what happened in May it's almost like 5 years ago in virtual event time.
Yeah, it's interesting. Heather and I were talking prior to the session, and I was having a conversation with my daughter the other day, who's, recently graduated from college. We were talking about how things in high school, when I was in high school versus when she was in high school, things change, or your life changes over time. But it seems that the pace of change now is just so fast versus what it was, years ago. And I think that's true for our virtual event space as well, that the pace of what's changing and how technology is advancing, and all the session just a little while ago was all about all the different players in the space from a technology standpoint, and what the customers are learning and how they're behaving and how the sponsors are responding. And just, what we came across in May, we knew we had to do something different. We knew we couldn't just, we have people that call it lift and shift, and I think that's a terrible term. You can't just take something that's physical and put it in the virtual world, but we didn't know exactly how it had to be different. We tried a lot of things, and we've learned over time, and really brought a lot of our sponsors and our audience along with us.
Well, it's, again, the theme of today's Virtual Shakeup has really been, for me, like this startup mentality, being agile. I mean, one of the things that I think is amazing is, how many people do you have on your team?
We have 9 people, and we've done 5 virtual events since the end of May. So that is the essence of a startup bootstrap situation. It's good that I have some very exciting people and dedicated people and talented people who don't mind stepping in and stepping over the line and really pitching in where it needs to be done. So
multitasking and learning while you're doing it. It's like another theme that has been prevalent today. One of the things that I also think is really interesting, especially for people who are in the audience, where they're asking questions like, well, what if I have an older audience, or what if my audience is introverted? Your audience are engineers.
Yeah.
And they're very driven by technical educational information. But you said something interesting about the value of content and how you're using it to do something else. Want to share that?
Yeah. So yeah, we have a joke in the engineer world, which is that the extroverted engineer looks at the other person's shoes when they're talking to them. So I mean, these are folks that really don't believe in marketing and don't believe in, being influenced in any way, and that things are very pure and educational and scientific. And we've really tried to use the content piece to drive them into the connection piece. Overtly, they would not probably agree to meetings or say, yes, I want to go and meet 10 different people, but they love to learn. And so if you can connect that connection piece to the learning piece, it works pretty well. Some of the things we've tried recently is, we exit the sessions into a chat area where they know the speakers will be there. They know they can get their questions answered. And that's been really powerful. We've done some smaller kind of face-to-face Zoom room type sessions called Tech Talks. And it was interesting too. We had to help the sponsors with that because they started out with a presentation about their company, and some of the folks that were in the audience, there's only about 25 people in the room. So it was nice and interactive. And they were like, hey, is this a sales pitch? Like, what's really happening? And so we really had to make that more meaningful and give them the cues as well. But folks really enjoy that. And then it paves the way for the sponsors then to bring in solutions or say, hey, let's talk a little more about your needs. Or, I have some other folks I'm working with that are facing the same challenges, and it really drives them from the content into the connection piece.
Well, we have a poll that is live now. I don't think the responses are here, but I really want people to answer this because my question is, whose responsibility is it to deliver sponsor ROI? Is it the provider is it the platform? Is it the organizer? Is it the sponsor, or is it all of above? So we'll get the answer later, but I think this leads right into it. Mm-hmm. And the thing that I've learned from this is that the education of your customer is so critical. And it takes a true customer success strategy to do that. Like, your salespeople need to become consultants and training even before they sell. And then once closed, you need to have a team that's focusing. It's not just so much like, here's your shipping labels and, drayage and all this stuff. Now it's like, here's what you need to know how to leverage this. Tell us what you've done to do that.
Yeah. I love your analogy. We've moved beyond, don't forget to order your plants. Right. So, really, one of the best pieces that we added to our team back in March was a customer success manager and a customer success strategy around that, which really included a full onboarding of each sponsor, one-on-one conversations, walking them through what we were doing. We started even before we announced the virtual event. We started with a town hall, and we brought all of our sponsors and potential future customers together and talked to them about what we were looking at and what we were thinking about, and we encouraged their feedback. So they really felt like they were part of this decision, and they felt like they were part of this journey with us. And really, after each event, we were having a town hall. So after each event, we would bring everyone together and we would say, listen, we know this didn't work and we want to fix this. And, what did you think? And how did you feel? And we got some really great feedback from people that said, you know what, you really have given us amazing service. We felt like you were with us all along the way. I mean, we were at the point where we were, setting up their virtual booth spaces, and we were in there kind of helping them to fine tune what they had available and giving them that kind of insight and advice and letting them know what works and maybe what doesn't work. And all the way from their purchase decision, let's call it, all the way till after the event with detailed results and leads and analytics, and going, slide by slide with the sales rep through each different piece of their plan. Some of the sponsors were involved in a very, large way. Some just wanted a virtual booth. We now have data to say that, we clearly know that people don't know what to do in a virtual booth, either attendees or exhibitors. So, we're encouraging them to include the content or include a networking activity or, do something a little more meaningful. And it comes from our experience and our data, and they appreciate it. They're very receptive to it. And it's really created some real partnerships and relationships with these customers to where now they're saying to us, well, what else can we do with ASME? Like, how else can we get involved? Like, we really like working with you. Like, how else can we meet your audience? And that's been really satisfying, especially from a startup situation.
Oh, absolutely. I would say you're very customer-centric organization, listening to your customers, and they're part of the journey. So do we have the results in? I'd be curious to see what people say. All of you. Sorry.
Oh,
I'm doing that to you.
I can't believe it. You've given the answer. Yeah, no, all of the above seems to be the big one, doesn't it? And interestingly, 0% for the platform. So nobody thinks that the platform needs to get involved.
Not get involved, but you need to make sure the platform has a very easy user interface for sponsors to not only set themselves up, but to access their data, the leads, like how they're doing. Yeah, so, okay, sorry, I disagree. So, and Debbie knows that. So when, I think the thing that one of the other things that's happened is that when I first joined your team to help with the sales, we were selling just an event, right? Now, what are you selling? What is our goal for 2021 in terms of what I call wallet share?
Yeah, I mean, we're really selling more of a constant contact type campaign. We're selling an entire real system for folks to plug into, which includes the virtual events. It includes newsletters now. It includes webinar products. It includes, we're talking to some people about custom research now. We're talking to people about other different opportunities and really trying to weave it into something longer lasting that really goes to their business goals. We had a great meeting with a customer just yesterday where we're talking to them about they just want to pay us for the year and they just want to do everything, and that is just a huge, huge win in the win column for us. We'll see how it all shakes out in the wash, but just the idea that people are now coming to us with those kinds of ideas and those kinds of suggestions really, it is a testament to our focus on them and our ability to focus on them. That's really been at the center of what we've been doing.
I think it's a huge competitive differentiator for you, by the way. And I'm not just saying that because I like you guys. I think it's evident. It's totally evident. So the other thing I think that's interesting is the way you view hybrid. And it actually really resonates with a lot of what we've heard today. You want to share your idea?
Yeah, so I definitely was tuned into some of the sessions and I was like, okay, so maybe we're on the right track, which, and some of this comes from logistics and having a team of 9 people. And there was a point in time when we thought we were going to have an in-person and virtual event at the same time. We thought that the in-person might be possible. It ended up not being possible due to local regulations and just the general environment of what was happening with COVID. But we were originally talking about doing it at the same time. And I looked around at the group kind of on the screen like we are right now and said, I'm pretty sure that this is probably not going to happen. Just because it's so much to execute, it's complicated. And then you really go to the core of why people would come to an event in person. They're there in person. So people are not going to take maybe a meeting on a screen when they're somewhere in person. They want to be together, and we're definitely going to want to be together by the time we all get back together again. So the idea being that the hybrid is but an extension and an opportunity of that in-person activity that allows you to broaden your audience, allows you to extend your reach, go beyond those 2 or 3 days into the full year and be out there with a platform and an opportunity and content and ongoing engagement with the audience. I mean, I think people are tired of us hitting them up all the time. Come to our event, come to our event, come to our event. Yeah. It's like, how about a long-term relationship where we are actually someone who's providing value to you all the time?
That's so funny. I used to say this about when my sales team had to sell multiple solutions. I called it vision to decision, start the conversation early and stay there. People don't stop buying things to wait like, oh, wait, I'd have to buy a major thing and I'm going to wait till, it's May, but you know what? The event's in September, so I'm not going to buy it. So creating that 365 marketplace and information gathering platform is a real big priority, I would think, for you and other organizers.
Yeah.
So what does 2021 and beyond hold for you?
Yeah, our organization has actually decided that we're not going to have any in-person events in 2021. Part of that, there's two types of events that we host at ASME. Some of them are technical conferences. So your traditional scientific program with abstracts and papers and presentations. And because of the timeline of those having to be 9 months out for paper submission and those kinds of things, we really had to let people plan. And so we made the decision that we were going to not have any in-person events unless things change. I mean, if things change, and like I always say to you, if the crop duster comes through with the vaccine and we're all good, maybe we can pivot back to live. But the idea being that we are in a virtual situation. And so we decided to, take advantage of that as much as we can. And some of the feedback we've heard from our customers is they appreciated the fact that we came right out and said, listen, this is what we're going to do, because it allowed them to plan, it allowed them to budget. And from a budgeting standpoint, they're actually excited to be able to do more programs, because they said, we're able to do more virtual events than we can do the in-person. And I know all of us can't wait to see each other in person sometime soon. But the idea being that we will be able to really kind of expand what we're doing with the event platforms into more of a longer term relationship over this year, and the products that we'll be rolling out in the second half of the year that'll really complement what we've been doing all along with these virtual programs and in a lot of different industries. So we're excited about that.
No, for sure. I think you planned if you would have asked me like 6 months ago, like, whoa, no events in 2021, I'd be, maybe the second half, and hopefully it does change. But the fact is there are three components now influencing the success of an in-person. It's the regulation, it's the fear, and it's the change in behavior, all of which are out of our control. So we have a question from the audience. And actually, this is interesting, especially for your group. How do you balance bringing your constituents into the planning process without making them feel like they're doing too much work? And you've got two. One is the sponsor side, but I actually think you should also address it from the audience side, because you get a lot of feedback from the audience too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we've been doing a lot of the post-event research and going out to the audience and asking them, what they thought of the event. We do NPS score, like I'm sure everyone in the audience is doing NPS score, customer satisfaction scores, pulling the verbatims, looking at different things. It was very simple to see after our first event, which Heather and I laughed because one of our sponsors said, you guys were really brave. I'm like, I guess I'll take that as a compliment. That's really good, because it wasn't like it was good, it was bad. It was like, that was very brave. So since we got out there early, we were able to try a lot of things. And so, as we get feedback from our audience, as we get feedback from our sponsors, we come to them with potential solutions and asking them if those are acceptable to them. So in a very quick iterative loop, we're able to say, hey, this is what we're thinking of doing. Maybe it's a hosted buyer program. Maybe it's some new feature. Maybe, the tech talks were an idea. A lot of these things in the virtual world, you don't have to rent rooms and you don't have to order coffee. And so you can put ideas out there to your audience to see what flies and what doesn't fly. And so that's part of the way that we've been doing that without making them feel the burden. Sometimes, we talk about our advisors. And we really count on them for a lot of their technical expertise, but we always try for them to not feel like they are driving the ship, that they are still just kind of passengers on the cruise.
Right. And actually, I'm glad you brought up the advisors. So, on one hand, the sponsors want you to succeed, because if you succeed, they succeed. And then the advisors are the industry experts who help you really understand the content side. We have another question here, which is, how did you handle employee fatigue in delivering virtual events in such a short cycle?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'll take feedback from everyone on how to keep people fresh right now. There's a lot of drinking going on. Just kidding. But we try to do some team camaraderie events, because interestingly enough, some of the folks in my team are relatively new. And I would say probably a little less than half of them have never even been in the same room together. So these are brand new people that, we started work from home about 2 weeks after they started in the organization. And so we've been trying to do a lot of things to build the camaraderie in the team. We've done, happy hour is an easy thing to do, but even some of the techniques that we do in our events, like we've done a trivia day, we've done different things to introduce new people to the group, and really just trying to keep a positive attitude. Like the stress can definitely get to you. And I always look at virtual events differently, because in a live event, we've all been there with the worst case scenario, like the AV went out, the power went out, there's a tornado warning, you name it, anything could happen. But you always feel like you could recover from that. Whereas in a virtual world, sometimes your internet goes out and you're done. Like that is the one fell swoop that's over. And so we try to kind of give folks what they need in terms of tools, and then also try to encourage them that, hey, mistakes happen, things happen. It's not the end of the world. We're learning, we're improving, we're going forward. And that's really what we've tried to do, and just kind of keep a positive esprit de corps within the group. And it's worked relatively well. They're good-hearted people that are actually used to the grueling on-site event world. So that's been good. But thanks for that question. That's a really good question.
I think everyone is dealing with this right now. How do you approach the constant contact strategy? This is a very different service and experience from an event.
Yeah, it is different, right? And Heather, it's a different sell, right? It's a different approach to people. And I think we've all been faced with having different skill sets, right? So we're not always necessarily looking for folks that are really good at maybe trade show sales. We're looking at people who have an experience in digital media. We're looking at people who understand other areas, because it is more of a campaign, and it is more of an approach across the board, across time. And I think part of the appeal for customers is that they feel like if they can get into a groove with you, if you really know them and you're really out there and you're able to kind of identify the opportunities that are good for them, they're going to trust you. And so you're building that trust that then they're going to count on you to give them the right recommendations. And, that's really my feedback on that. We're still evolving in that. That is not necessarily the core skill of my entire team. And so we're all trying to learn. And Heather, I'm sure you have comments on that as well.
Well, right. I think at the end of the day, I don't, because of what I call structural change, i.e. it's done. i.e. there's no going back. It's not temporary. This idea of one, providing your customer with all different ways to get what they need from you, right? Your information, access to products and services. They're looking to help them, with purchase decisions, that you have to be in constant contact, right? Like, so both with your audience, which is actually a good thing, because you have to nurture an audience to continue to engage, will help in the future. Second is, it's a great format for you to keep testing things out, which, by the way, when in real life comes back, you've actually going to be like, well, this event really worked online really well. And we know if we actually transposed it to live, it could be a bonanza, but you had less risk. But digital's here to stay, I think, for event organizers, even when IRL is there. So one last question, which is, would you say the COVID situation allowed you to become a thought leader to the customer base you serve? How do you plan to carry that momentum on into 2021?
Ooh, that's a good question. A pandemic is tragic, right? So I can't even begin to talk about that. But the idea that everything went on hold gave us an opportunity to kind of tool up for a different reality. And so where we were able to come in and be first to market, which, first to market does not always necessarily mean you're the market leader, right? You're the first to market. But we've continued to evolve over time, and we've continued to look at new things and really be honest with ourselves about things that didn't work, and be honest with our customers about things that didn't work. And we're going to continue to evolve. I mean, I don't think we're at the end of this innovation curve, nor are we at the end of a very new way of working. And so wherever we can be of service to the industry, our goal was always to build a community, and that doesn't necessarily mean a discussion group on a website. Like, really, this additive manufacturing community specifically was a group that responded to the COVID pandemic with resources, with engineering expertise, with production. And I'm sure many of you have seen the information there. And as an industry organization, we were also able to connect with groups like the FDA and NIH and different groups to help funnel the resources where they needed to be, because there were a lot of folks that wanted to help and wanted to do, but didn't know how to do that. And so where we're able to be a meaningful partner to both the people in the industry and our sponsors and provide value to them and opportunity, that's where we're going to continue to keep it at the core of what we do. And then where we can provide, growth and commercial opportunity to our sponsors to help them grow, that's good for everyone. And so we'll continue to do that. But there's definitely more to come here. This is the ... piece, right? So we're gonna have to keep innovating and keep changing and moving the cheese.
I was just going to say, you needed to come in with that cheese comment. So if I had to describe this session, it's customer centricity is the key to success. So Deborah, thank you so much for joining. I'm really delighted that you were able to do it, especially just off the heels of a virtual event or two you just did about a week and a half ago.
One more next week.
Oh, God. Well, thanks so much.
Thanks, Heather.
So I'd like to let everyone know that please, again, engage with networking. We also have networking available tomorrow. We will be taking all of these best practices into a document that I'm putting together, which will take what we did from the first virtual shakeup, adding on what we've learned today. We'll email everyone out once that's available for download. And we also have tentative dates for Virtual Shakeup 3 at the end of March, which we will confirm. And again, just pencil it in when we send it to you. Thank you.